It's clear that I'm sitting with two artistic and sensitive filmmakers.
There's fantastic regional cinema, but you will rarely hear of a Himachali film.
With Alia, it's like working with another filmmaker.
When it's issue which is something like abortion, which is something that's tackled in the film, it's still considered such a huge taboo.
Why do men chicken out? You worked for Sacred Games, you worked for Superboys of Malegaon, you did Jigra also. It's tough for independent filmmakers.
It's a weird time that we're in right now. It is a struggle.
I have with me a couple who is passionately in love with each other. But first, I would like to get into their other passion, and that is for cinema. Welcome to the Vickey Lalwani show, Subhadra Mahajan and Swapnil Suhas.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think the time is right to, talk to you two. Your first collaboration with each other, Second Chance, is releasing in theatres on 13 June.
Hello? No, I'm fine. I did not run away, Mom. I just needed a bit of a time out. तो इसका नाम क्या रखना है?
Super cat.
One thing which strikes me immediately is that why is this film in black and white? I kept asking myself till the very end. And I thought at least one shot here when she breaks into that final dance in the climax. I'm talking about Dira.
Yeah.
I thought perhaps thoda color aa jayega.
The idea for black and white came from Subhadra, and I said yes to begin with, just for my opportunity to shoot black and white, and which kind of really excited me. She had like a much longer reason to go black and white.
Yeah, for me it was, from the beginning it was always a black and white film. When I was just forming the story in my head, all the imagery that would come to me was in black and white. And then of course I had to really think about it. It's such a huge decision. So I thought, this is the story of a young woman who is very, very depressed. And in the end, she's ready to give her life a second chance. So it's a story of, her navigating this very long and dark tunnel to find light at the end of it. So I felt it makes sense to make it in black and white. There's also a very Buddhist philosophy, which is the backbone of this film, which is kind of like finding light and darkness in light. It's accepting what is bad and still being able to find something good in that and eventually moving on. And that I felt, it's kind of like the yin-yang philosophy. So maybe setting it in the yin-yang of the Himalayan world would be a good idea. And yeah, those were a few of the ideas. Apart from that, it's quite novel. We discussed that जब भी हम Himalayas देखते हैं, it is always in full Technicolor, of course, because they are beautiful. But this was a unique, unseen way of shooting the Himalayas.
Also, like Himachal or the Himalayas during the winter, they shed color anyway, so the green is gone, and it kind of becomes, other than the brilliant blue in the sky, it kind of becomes monochrome, and it kind of did help emotionally to kind of tell the story in that sense. So I think it was an interesting way of seeing it. So I was on board from...
Yeah.
It's clear that I'm sitting with two artistic and sensitive filmmakers. But I want to ask you, Subhadra,
Yes.
one question. The story when I see makes me feel that ये किसी की कहानी है. क्या ये वाकई किसी person की कहानी है जिसको आप जानते हो?
So, like most first feature films, this is a very personally inspired film. And see, it comes from, I'm a very proud Himachali. I love my roots. I love my mountains. I think it gives me a lot of purpose and a lot of direction in my life. And I came to the realization once I started working in cinema and understanding more about what's going on and just watching more films. See, there's fantastic regional cinema from all different parts of the country, especially from down south, especially from Kerala. There's some great Assamese films. So regionally, there are films from all over, but you will rarely hear of a Himachali film. Secondly, now when mainstream, if you're talking about Bollywood and mainstream Hindi cinema, when they show Himachal, it's usually as, you know, maybe a song is shot there because it's beautiful, or maybe they go for a camp and wahan pe camp ka scenes hota hai, or, you know, some honeymoon or something or the other. Or then sometimes, you know, when they can't shoot in Kashmir for logistical reasons, they'll you know, use some part of Himachal for that. And it's pretty much limited to that. And I feel very committed as a Himachali from the inside to be able to tell stories from there. And we have a very diverse set of people, cultures, and cuisines, and languages, and song, and dance, and philosophy within every valley of Himachal. It's very, very, I think it deserves to be seen on screen. I have been born and raised in Himachal Pradesh, and I spent my entire childhood over there. So at one point, I was like the 7-year-old child like Sunny, जो वहाँ पे अकेले cricket खेलता था और सोचता था कोई आके मेरे साथ खेले, right? So I've lived that reality. I used to spend a lot of time with my grandmother, who is a lot like Bhimi ji, inspired a lot by her. And then when I turned 17 and I had to come to college, I came to Mumbai. So since then, I've become an urban girl, an urban young woman. So maybe Nia's reality is something that me and a lot of urban girls are living on a very daily basis. So I wouldn't say this is inspired by one particular thing, but I think it's inspired by like a genesis of my life experiences, the whole coming together as a story.
Did you see somebody like this in your college or in your friend circle?
I see so many,
circle?
Yeah.
The ups and downs which Nia goes through.
Yeah, I have seen many such cases. But I think it's a difficult time to be a young person. There's so much competitiveness. There's so much that's going on with, you know, constant social media and one-upmanship. You know, we're living at a time where we have materially everything. You know, a particular class of us, I call them the rich Indian millennials, like compared to our parents' generation and our grandparents' generation, हमारे पास सब कुछ है. Materially सब कुछ है, सारे opportunities हैं, but they are, I've seen a lot of cases where this results in like a lot of like them just being lost. And on the other hand, being a young woman at a time like this is also very confusing, because I feel like, you know, we're at a confluence right now. There's still a lot of traditionality, and there are modern and feminist thoughts coming in, and young women are found at the crossroads of this. So when it's a issue which is, you know, something like abortion, which is something that's tackled in the film, a woman often finds herself in a very uncomfortable space, because I'm proud to say legally in India, we have one of the most forward abortion laws in the world, but it's still considered such a huge taboo. Like every girl I know who's had to go in for an abortion, none of them have had the guts to tell their parents. A lot of them have gone for it alone, taken it from, you know, chota sa doctor in some gully. You will not go to your family doctor because you feel like, you know.
And these girls are residing in Bombay.
Yeah, Bombay,
Delhi, Bangalore.
Yeah, of course. And I'm sure in smaller towns as well. वहाँ तो और भी होता है. So it's just, you know, it's a phase where a young woman can find herself very alone. And I'm not saying in all cases, but in many cases, when you know, a couple is dating and the girl tells her boyfriend that she's fallen pregnant, that's like she'll never hear from him again. I've faced these situations and had to hold a lot of girls' hands. So
what's the analysis? I just want to understand this. Why do men chicken out? Now you have spoken this to girls, and I'm sure you also have spoken to people around you.
Yeah,
I think a man should answer this first.
Yeah, I was going to say that I don't think I can answer this question. I am looking for the answer still.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never met any, like, none of my friends have been in a situation like this, so I don't know personally.
Because you don't know. They might have been, and it's just something that you don't talk about.
Nobody's going to come and tell you that I did
so
and so.
But like then obviously they're not the kind of close people that I know, right? So I mean, I'm just saying that it has not been a personal experience where I'd had to kind of confront people or people I know who've kind of gone through something like this. But on the other hand, I can completely understand that women, girls, young girls kind of do go through it, and the society that we come from, it is hard to talk about. It is still difficult to talk about love in general in households, you know, and for something to go this further in a relationship, I'm sure is scary. It's all of that to confront it, like, and hopefully the person has friends who kind of become
are there for them
rather than just the family, because that is, I'm sure would be a difficult situation. Is that I've not come across somebody who's had to go through a situation like that.
I wish you had called them cowards. The woman should answer it now.
No, absolutely, 100% cowards as well. But it's just,
yeah, I mean, I wish I'm still looking for that answer, and a lot of my female friends and we sit and talk about this, but maybe there's something that we need to figure out about this generation of young men. And I'm not saying all. There are some very good men, and then there are others who are not.
Swapnil, you have done quite a few films which are so well known in the movie circuit. I mean, you worked for Sacred Games, you worked for Superboys of Malegaon, you did Jigra also, Badhai Do. इसमें फर्क क्या है जो अभी आप जो सुभद्रा के साथ पिक्चर किया है सेकंड चांस, what's the difference you feel, you know, when you get out from the mainstream stars, the bigger canvas, and you come to something more purer, something simplistic, but the story, the emotions are deeper. That I can see. But what perhaps I can't see is I would like to know from you.
So, you know, my introduction into cinematography per se was like when I started shooting on my own. The independent work started with a lot of documentary or docu-style work. You know, it was one was a proper documentary that I shot with Nalin, in fact. Then there were a lot of music documentaries that I was a part of, which always felt very close because it felt like you were with real people, real musicians, real people that you were meeting and constantly kind of, and like as a cinematographer, it's challenging because you're constantly thinking on your feet. You're like, you can't go back and do another take with, you know, a real person per se. You won't get the same thing, or you're trying to be as pure with it as possible. So in that sense, Second Chance became something on those lines because of all the non-actors and that sort of a scenario. But otherwise, I think in a macro sense, what I do say on a Jigra, like what I kind of try and bring to Jigra is the same thing that I try and bring to what Second Chance is. This definitely felt more intimate because I saw Subhadra right from the writing stage. I'd never been involved on a project where I saw the first draft and what the core idea was, the first page, all the way till where she's kind of pushed this rock over the mountain, and we kind of, now we are at, you know, on we'll have the film released, you know, in the theaters. So to see that is a whole different scenario, which I wouldn't have had gotten to. One, like as a cinematographer, you're not as deeply involved in a release of a film. But I mean, you have a particular skill set that you bring to the film where, you know, I make sure that the image looks a certain way, and my relationship with the director and his relationship with the actors, you know, I kind of played that role on that set. Here, I was also worried about whether, you know, we'll have warm food on set, and you know, whether people have eaten on time, and we have, you know, so that became a different
into
thing.
The producers.
But aren't you walking on a razor's edge when it comes to bigger actors? You know, because today everybody is so vanity conscious or a vanity freak, if I can say.
Yeah,
and that puts, as you said, you have to maintain their relations as well. That उन दोनों के बीच में कुछ problem ना आए, filmmaker और actors के बीच में. तो आप वो बीच की space occupy कर रहे हो.
Correct.
ताकि उनको जोड़ के रखो.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल नहीं, and like it's also, I feel in a, like as a cinematographer, it's my responsibility to kind of find that balance as well. But you know, I've been extremely lucky to have met some great directors, amazing actors, be it Saif on Sacred Games or Bazaar, and I've seen him work with Vikram, which was a great relationship. I've seen Alia work with Vasan, and like with Alia, I thought like it's like working with another filmmaker, which is matlab, her involvement towards not just the character but to the story, and like what she brings to the table for Vasan, how he takes it, how she takes, which was all like fantastic to see. So I've been extremely lucky where, if I've never been in a situation where, I've lit a scene a certain way where somebody's not liked it, like the way their face looks, and, that sort of a scenario I've never really gotten into, but I've heard of those. But like here, I've just been completely lucky that
Tell us about Saif.
he's just amazing. Yeah. He's amazing on set. He's such a great energy to kind of have around. I've had such a great time because we worked on Bazaar, and right after that we worked on Sacred Games, and it was a phenomenal transition from, because in Bazaar his character is completely different of this guy, and
larger than life
sort of a guy. And
I like that movie. I don't know why it didn't run. And I liked Vinod Mehra's son also in that.
Yeah, he's also Rohan is very sweet. So, and then to see him as Sartaj in Sacred Games was fantastic. Down and in Dharavi and getting kicked and all of that. To see him do both of those, and with with so much charm and everything on set, it was great.
The scene which took me absolutely by shock.
Yeah.
And I think you know what I'm going to say here. Is that scene where Dheera Johnson bleeds. She's lying in that tub, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, the bathtub.
Yeah. How did you shoot that scene? How comfortable was Dheera?
Dheera was always aware that this was one part of the film, and so she had enough time to mentally prepare. We were very, very small, close. So, jaise when you do, film scenes that involve nudity or some kind of that content in regular sets, then you called for a closed set. But the thing is, our crew strength was already so small. We were just 12 people on shoot. And most of the times it would just be Swapnil operating the camera, one person on sound, and me in the room where we were shooting, because we were shooting with non-actors, so we had to keep it as non-intrusive as possible. So it was already a closed set. She was already very comfortable with all of us. What was a big problem was it was so cold, and she had to be, wearing very, very sparse clothing, and be in that thing with the fake blood that we used and all of that. So it was uncomfortable. We tried to use some heaters and hot water bottles and stuff.
But what I was amazed by in that particular scene was what Bhimiji brought to the scene, where it you could see, even between takes, you could see it on her face that she felt it. She genuinely felt concern for her. Which was that scene and the doctor scene that happens afterwards.
So to talk about what Swapnil was talking about, it was very funny because they're non-actors, and one is a very old lady, one is a very small child. So though they understood that they were playing a role, but sometimes they would get very confused between reality and what is reality and what is part of the film, and I'd have to remind them. So for example, for this, it was actually one of my tricks as a director. We kept Bhimiji offset while we were doing the whole setup and all. So on the first take is when she saw this situation. I didn't even brief her. I just told her that, action pe aap jao aur Dheera ko sambhalo. And she's like, what? I was like, haan, wo aap dekh logi, jo aapko karna hai, jo man mein aayega karo.
Yeah.
So it was genuine concern and shock, because in the period of the acting workshop and the shoot, they had built a very beautiful, tender relationship, which is also very evident in the film, I think, the relationship that, the motherly relationship that Bhimi develops with Nia.
So any plans of you and your wife to now start directing big stars, make mainstream movies?
Oh my God, Subhadra will tell. She has to write those kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think I think as a person, I'm quite versatile. So I'm not averse to any ideas, and my head is not closed towards any such thing, but I am inclined towards a particular type of cinema. I think that's evident from my first feature film and also from other stuff that I've worked with in the past. But you never know what the future holds, right?
Subhadra has written a comedy,
Yeah.
which I'm kind of eager to like, and you know, it doesn't come across like that in her maybe first film, but
No, but a lot of people have told me that the parts of Second Chance are just very funny, especially with Sunny. You know, and that was intentional because it's part of Nia coming out of her gloom is, you know, the light moments that Sunny brings and all of that. So
ऐसा कभी
maybe.
हुआ सनी के साथ कि आपने सेलिब्रेट लगा दिया और बच्चा है नहीं मेरा मूड नहीं है शूट करने
Oh,
का?
bilkul, constantly. It was just non-stop, like.
So you were running after him.
Oh yeah. He was so you know my process with Sunny was that I went through a lot of little boys to like I went through a lot of auditions of young boys from that area and I liked a few of them. By the time I was ready to shoot, they'd become too big, so they want the Sunny has to be a particular age. उससे बड़ा होगा तो he'll lose that charm, that is needed. So some of the boys I had liked had grown up. And then this particular boy, Kanav Thakur, when the first time I had met him, he was very small and very naughty. So he is from a village called Burua and he's notorious in that entire village. It's like Gabbar Singh kind of a thing, okay, as soon as you say his name, people run away because he's actually that naughty. But now what I also realized is that the naughtier the child, the better actor he is usually. And this is something Dilip sir had also said that, the naughty one, you'll have to learn how to deal with the naughty ones because usually they are the best actors. I had to become his friend. I had to go back into childhood and do a lot of things with him. And there were a lot of bribes involved at every step of the way. So first the bribe started with the, अच्छा मैं करूँगा लेकिन आपको मुझे एक घोड़ा लेना पड़ेगा. Then it came down to cycle. Then eventually when he realized that I can only afford something like one lollipop a day or one... kids love those Kinder Joys, no? So one Kinder Joy a day, then he settled for that only. But yeah, they were always bribes.
So, Swapnil and Subhadra, tell me 3 films which you recommend for any aspirant DOP and any aspirant filmmaker.
You start. Because there's so many, it's very hard to just name 3. But let him start.
I'll start with Camera Buff, which is Kieślowski's film, which is very close to me. I mean, it's the perfect film that when I saw it, felt like this guy could totally be me. By the end of it, he completely destroys him. Like the camera kind of destroys his life, But I do passionately feel for, for what that film stands for. But so that is one. The other one would be, there's a documentary on Bismillah Khan Sahab, which I keep going back to. It's called Sange Mil Se Mulaqat, Meeting a Milestone. You'll find it on YouTube, which is very close to me. Then Tarkovsky's Mirror, which is also something completely. So yeah, those would be my 3 recommendations for cinematographers. One of them would be music.
Subhadra?
It's such a difficult, hard question because stories can be told in so many ways, but I really think the classics are very, very important. And for me, one of the classics I do keep going back to is Pathar Panchali. I just think it's so beautifully made. I mean, it's so immersive and even it's not aged. And I mean, it's been a great inspiration at some point. And I think because this can be such a large, vague question. I'm only going to stick to classics. Like imagine if they're only classics that.
Second?
I would say The Bicycle Thieves, the Italian film by Vittorio De Sica, because again, in itself, it's such a beautiful film and it's a very wonderfully told story, again with non-actors and really, really fantastic. And then what else?
I'll add Mahanagar to my list.
Mahanagar to your list. Yeah. Recently you've been watching Mahanagar. And
Okay.
I still have one
more.
left to go.
Third.
Oh God. Persona by Bergman.
Yeah.
Insane character study.
Yeah. Cries and Whispers for me.
Bergman, yeah. Oh my God, all 3 of mine were black and white films. So strange, no?
Yeah. Good.
Oh, yes.
I just realized. for that.
Swapnil, any particular photographs you had in mind of certain photographers when this film was flowing and you were maybe about to get in or while you were at the field?
There are some really amazing Indian photographers that I've seen work. So there's Swapan Parekh. There's a whole lot of work that I had seen of. There's some work of Saurabh Hura, who's also a photographer that I had his color work, but he's done a series called Snow, which was quite beautiful. Of course, like there were a bunch of images, but or there was Salgado, who's done a lot of black and white work that I kind of went back and saw. Sebastian Salgado, who recently passed away. But so yeah, a bunch of painters and photographers.
अभी मुझे लग रहा है कि वो movie एक painting है. One beautiful thing, one of the beautiful things, I stand corrected in this movie, Swapnil, is that you have indulged in a lot of static photography. What exactly makes you do that?
So a bit of it comes from the story itself as to what the story kind of requires. But a lot of it is also constraints that we had, like the production constraints. Like it wasn't your regular film where we had the track and the dolly and those kind of steady cams and things like that. Not that we required them. Like it was the perfect film where if you see, there are hardly any scenes where we even go handheld per se. There are a couple of shots where we go handheld. Otherwise, everything is on a tripod where you see people and then you cut to another shot. You're not just following people around. I think all that, most of it came from discussions with Subhadra as to how she saw the film, which for me was quite exciting. Like to see it in statics, where you see a tiny person in a big landscape, and then you also see like a nice tight close-up in the similar landscape. So those two things were something that I wanted to kind of explore, and it was the perfect film where I could kind of explore that kind of imagery.
The static part which you have kept, what does it actually reflect when you go to the story? Does it reflect Dheera's turmoil, Dheera's stress, or is it that that weight which she's expectantly looking at her phone, waiting for a phone call from someone? Let's not give it away from home. What does it reflect? कुछ तो story के साथ भी उसका
I think it
connect
reflects
होगा.
The static camera in the wider shots. It's definitely, I think it does the job of kind of because it is this really, really beautiful environment and you're very much in the lap of Mother Nature in all her glory. So somewhere it's like that understanding that Nia understanding herself as one speck in this big universe, and there is a system that is, functioning way beyond her control, which is going to eventually take care of her. So I think that, and I mean, because I live in the city and my parents still live in Himachal, so I go and spend a substantial amount of time there every year. And I've noticed that there's always it takes a couple of days to reset and shift. Your whole pace of functioning changes when you're there. And I think the static camera helps us slow down and get into that slightly meditative quality, which one experiences in mountain life, to experience that in the film a little bit through this cinematography,
to kind of get away from the chaos of it, and we do go handheld when it gets a bit chaotic, but then again settle down in more static and kind of camera. So I mean, to get that sort of an emotion where things are more easily paced than rushed, to kind of find that sort of a space cinematically.
सबसे बड़ी बात इसमें ये है कि आपके एक्टर्स भी कैमरा को पहली बार फेस कर रहे हैं.
बिल्कुल, they are all non-actors.
Yes. So whether you talk about Dheera Johnson, whether you talk about Thakra Devi, whether you talk about Kanav, the child artist, or Rajesh Kumar, who plays the child's father, where do you get these people? And I mean, what makes you so confident about them? पिक्चर में यार पैसा वैसा लगता है
हाँ.
इतना.
It is a big risk. It is a big risk, honestly, because the non-actors bring a certain authenticity and rawness to the film, which is just uncompromisable, I would say. But they do come with a lot of drawbacks in many ways, and one of the biggest dangers is the fact that they are regular people with regular lives and jobs, so their first priority will not be acting in your film. It will be whatever else is going on.
Yeah.
But I decided very early on that this particular story and the way I planned to direct it, it was more of a neo-realistic approach, and I would have liked to, I could only do it with non-actors.
They say that it's tough for independent filmmakers.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I know for a fact it is. It's tough. I mean, it's a weird time that we're in right now, where there's so many established filmmakers who made fantastic feature films, and they are also in a struggling phase still with getting their next project on board. So it is a struggle.
So it's a weird time because all the resources to make a film, it has never been a cheaper time to make a film. In the sense, the cameras, you don't need like hundreds of feet of film to kind of run through a camera. You can genuinely take your phone out and go out and shoot stuff. But at the same time, it's just like on the other side of it, it has become extremely hard to mount a film, to put it forward so that it can go to the right audience, see the biggest canvas that the film kind of been shown at.
How did the sun go up on Subhadra and Swapnil's love?
Oh,
why don't you start with the story?
So we met on my first feature film as a cinematographer, was Angry Indian Goddesses, and Subhadra was a co-writer and the chief AD on that film. But that is the film that we just met on and became friends and kind of stayed in touch, that sort of a scenario. And a couple of years down the line, again with Nalin, we did another feature film where I was a second unit cinematographer and
I was a second unit director.
You worked with Nalin for 8 years, I think.
Many years. I still work with Nalin. Yeah.
So both of us, in fact. So on that feature film where she was the second unit cinematographer, both of us, Nalin would ask us both to kind of go out and do some second unit shots, and we were in Ladakh, first in Himachal, where we shot a lot, and then just the two of us were sent to Ladakh to Spiti to do some more second unit shots. I think that's where we kind of got together.
Yeah, it's been a long time actually. Yeah.
Okay.
But what I like to say is that when I was writing and mounting Second Chance, at that point we were partners because we formed this company together, Latent Pictures, which is one of the producers of the film, the main producer. And during the post of the film, he proposed to me. So then till the time we finished the film, we were like fiancés. And then by the time the film was out, we were married, and now he's my husband. So the relationship has evolved along with the film, I think. That's how I look at it.
It's a lovely film. And
Thank you.
Each one of us, including, of course, all those who are listening to this interview, should go and see it on 13 June in the theatres.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's nice to experience it on the big screen, not just because of the cinematography, but also the sound design is... it's been worked out very intricately. It's a very silent film. We've used a lot of sounds of nature and a lot of inner psychology of Nia. So it's really well experienced on the big screen. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Swapnil, and thank you, Subhadra.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.